Chapter 1, Launching a New Venture. What makes a great entrepreneur or a great leader? What are some of the qualities that make these people amazing? Well, what makes Sheryl Sandberg successful? What makes Richard Branson successful? What made Steve Jobs very successful? Well, there's many qualities that these people share, and the most important quality is passion. These people love what they're doing. It never appears like they have a job when they're being interviewed on TV. They're just so happy. They love what they're doing. They're passionate about their daily job. In fact, if you wake up in the morning and tell yourself you're going to work, you're doing it wrong, you need to change careers. And I'll be expressing that phrase many times with that logic throughout this course. You got to be passionate about what you're doing. If you get a chance, watch a video on YouTube of Richard Branson presenting. He's very passionate. He's very happy all the time. He's got an amazing attitude. In fact, the corporate culture of any company, whether it's a small firm or a large firm like Virgin, is always set by the person at the top. And so Richard Branson has created so many amazing Virgin companies. And so if you ever fly in Virgin America or Virgin Atlantic, just watch how happy the employees are. It doesn't appear like they have a job. And so very successful entrepreneurs are very passionate people. They love what they're doing. I tell my students in the business schools I teach at, many of them want to go into investment banking, and I tell them, don't do it unless you're passionate about that, because you'll be miserable otherwise. And don't worry about money. Money will always come, I promise you, if you're passionate about what you're doing. It's amazing how the most successful people don't have jobs. They have passions. And the most successful people always believe that they can accomplish anything, or small groups of people can actually change the world. They're also very forward thinking. And so right in the middle of the slide, you'll see the great one who's Wayne Gretzky. Again, I'm Canadian, so I have to mention Gretzky somewhere in my presentation. Wayne Gretzky was very successful, not because he skated to where the puck is. Rather, he skated to where the puck is going to be. And so, in effect, he was very long-term greedy or long-term focused. And that's a quality a lot of the best entrepreneurs in the world have. Now, I included a couple of politicians on the slide, including Ronald Reagan and Barack Obama. And both of them were very passionate about speaking. They could speak in front of large groups and speak off script. And really connect with people. And this is not a political class at all, but needless to say, the most successful politicians or business people in the world are the ones that can speak effectively in front of groups of people and sell an idea, sell a concept, change the world, put a dent in the universe. And next class, we're going to talk about exactly how you can do this as well. Okay, so networking is key. Relationships are more important than product knowledge. What you learn in this course outside of networking is less important than networking. The grades that you got in school are much less important compared to your ability to network. Quite often, the best CEOs or entrepreneurs in the world didn't have the top grades. They learned how to network at an early age or a later age, and it's not hard to do, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. And so networking is important. Relationships are more important than product knowledge. Okay, next up we have sources of entrepreneurial ideas. You want to start a company, but I don't want you to until you make sure that you have analyzed the next couple of slides. So I'm going to kick it off with the most important one, which is TAM, T-A-M, Total Addressable Market, TAM. Before starting a company, you got to make sure that the TAM, or total addressable market, is massive. In venture capital, quite often, venture capitalists don't invest in companies unless the TAM, or the market size, is at least $20 billion. And the reason we say $20 billion is because we want our underlying companies we invest in to get at least 5% market share longer term. 5% of 20 billion is $1 billion in revenue annually. Most startups go belly up. And so you want to invest in companies or start companies that have a massive total addressable market opportunity. What's the point in starting a company if the TAM is very small? And so you might ask yourself, well, Chris, how do I calculate the TAM? How do I calculate the total addressable market? Well, you could search Google for it, Google your industry plus total addressable market. If that doesn't work, then just take the top 30 companies in the world in the market you're looking to start a company in or invest in. Take those top 30 companies and add up the revenue from each of those 30 companies. And that is close enough to the size of the total addressable market so that you make sure that if you're going to hit it big, you hit it big in a big market. Make sure you always see the forest from the trees. Okay, so now we're going to talk about trends, investment trends or sources of ideas. How do you come up with an idea? We're going to talk about a couple of cool ways to do that. So before we jump in, I want to show you the cover of a magazine that changed the world in the mid-70s. It's a magazine called Popular Electronics. And on the cover of this magazine, there's the mention of a personal computer, a computer that you can have at home. And big companies at the time, like IBM, Digital, and many others, thought that there was only demand for a handful of computers in households at that time. And so what happened was a small group of people had a slogan, which was they believed that there will be a computer on every desk and in every home. And these are those people that changed the world. And I want to see if you can guess who these people are. They have an incredible sense of fashion. Just kidding. But the founders are in the bottom left and the bottom right-hand corner. If you haven't guessed by now, it's none other than Bill Gates and Paul Allen that started Microsoft. And they changed the world. They changed the world. Other great investment ideas that are more current are ones from the cloud computing sector. What does that mean? Well, if you get access to your emails from Gmail, for example, or Hotmail or Yahoo, whatever, they're stored on the internet in the cloud. And we're just in the early stages of the cloud computing paradigm shift. Eventually, all data will be up and secured in the cloud, hopefully. And so the poster child for cloud computing is an amazing company, which is the biggest employer in San Francisco. And this company is called Salesforce.com. And the founder and CEO is a guy named Mark Benioff. And I met him several years before his company went public. I met him back in 2002. And I didn't fully appreciate the business model at the time. I got it, but I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have. But the reason I thought this company would be incredibly successful is because the CEO founder, Mark Benioff, is incredibly passionate. He's probably the best salesperson I've ever met. Your ability to sell in business is very important. I'll teach you exactly how to do that later. And so the cloud computing paradigm shift is really in the early innings. And so this is an investment trend that's going to go on for a long, long time. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to start an internet company these days. The programming tools you can use are very, very easy to master. And if you have questions about that, just ping me offline and we can set up a call or an email dialogue and I'll help you out with that. And so I look in venture capital at investing in cloud companies. And the reason I do is because the cost to set up a company is very, very small when it comes to cloud computing. Once you set it up, you have access to billions of consumers online. More on that later. Other investment themes or sources that you can invest in that are multi-decade themes include the construction or engineering market in the Middle East. Here's a couple of cool pictures of Dubai from 1991 and then a picture from a couple of years ago. You've seen tremendous growth there. And the same can be said for Shanghai or San Francisco even. There's incredible growth in these cities, in these regions. And these are multi-decade investment themes, okay? And they're large TAMs, large total addressable markets. The internet theme has been in full force really since 1995 when Netscape, which is the first internet browser that mattered, went public. And the internet theme is interesting because it was set up in the late 60s as an American government tool so that if, God forbid, a nuclear bomb hit the middle of America, the East Coast of the United States and the West Coast could still communicate through the web. We'll talk about internet ideas later. Okay, so other investment themes include security, and this is not a political course at all, but given the NSA issues, there's going to be an incredible need for more private companies creating security products. And so that's a long-term investment theme that I think is going to have legs. There's also something called IoT, which I'm looking closely at right now from a venture capital perspective. And IoT stands for the Internet of Things. And it's the ability to hook up cool products in your house or in your office directly to the internet. Like the Nest thermostat, which is in the top right-hand corner of this picture. Google owns this company now, but that's really disrupted the thermostat market, for example. And there's many other cool examples. The IoT market will last many, many years. Some of you have the Apple Watch as well. I tried it. Doesn't work well for me yet. I'll try version 2 again. But that's a theme that has legs, which will work for a long, long time from an investment and startup perspective. Hollywood. Why am I showing you a picture of Hollywood? What's up with that, Chris? Well, Hollywood is actually an amazing source for coming up with investment ideas. And you're probably scratching your head thinking, Chris, why would you make that comment? Hollywood's not real. They just make stuff that's fiction. Well, fiction becomes reality. In Hollywood, you have a lot of amazing dreampreneurs or entrepreneurs that dream or think big and then think bigger. They have great ideas that the commercial sector or the venture capital sector or the technology sector or other sectors adopt many years later. And I'll give you examples. So in the late 1960s, Star Trek was an awesome show. They make awesome movies now as well, of course. What they did in Star Trek in the late 60s, and more recently too, is there's something called the beam me up process, whereby if you wanted to land on a planet or go back to your spaceship, you were able to beam yourself up. And that was the genesis or the inspiration for the Motorola flip phone, right? The flip phone, the clam phones we've seen that have been very popular up until recently. And actually, interestingly enough, the reason that Star Trek had the beam me up process was because it was too expensive in the late 1960s from a computer graphics processing perspective to have the spaceship landing on planets, right? And so they beam themselves up instead. That's kind of cool. Other movies that have had an incredible impact on society and how we think about startup ideas and how we think about using technology include the movie Minority Report, starring Tom Cruise. And that came out in 2002, and there were a couple of awesome scenes on how Tom Cruise in that movie interacted with computers. And he swiped screens back and forth. And that was the genesis for swipe technology. In fact, there was a scene in Avatar, the movie Avatar from Jim Cameron, where you had a business executive holding an iPad-like device and then swiping it up to a computer screen. And that was the genesis for Apple's AirPlay, where you can take the image or video or whatever it is you're looking at on your iPad and send it directly to your television. And there's many more awesome ideas about that, about using technology in Hollywood. Another one is a company called a movie called Her, which is a little bit out there, starring Scarlett Johansson. And basically what happened in that movie was there was a virtual operating system, which is voice-based. And I believe in this concept longer term. Why do we need to actually see our computer or see our mobile phones? Why can't it be virtual and kind of follow us everywhere? I think the next big operating system that matters will be voice-based. And the reason that that idea resonated with me was because I saw the movie Her a while ago and thought, heck, this is probably a great investment thesis. So today, Apple is embracing this with Siri, which is getting better. And Amazon has an amazing process or little consumer electronic device that's changed my household called the Amazon Echo, ECHO. It's voice-based. And the reason I bought it is because I have a very intellectually curious 6-year-old, and I can't answer all of his questions anymore. So he asked me, how much does the Earth weigh? Or who's the second president? And so anyway, we bought this Amazon Echo product. It's a speaker you see in the image there below the Siri icon. And it's really had a great impact on how we leverage technology in my household. So voice is another theme that has legs. Dreampreneurs from Hollywood can change the world, and they have many times before. Okay, so what's the point of analyzing companies, of considering investing in companies if you don't have the right management team? And Michael Dell had this amazing quote years ago. He said that ideas are commodities, but execution is not. And so you got to make sure that you've got a great jockey because the horse is less relevant. We'll talk about selecting the right management team in much more detail later. Don't worry if you don't have experience, though. If you've never started a company, if you're too young, or if you're older, it doesn't matter. There's a way around it, and I'll teach you exactly how to deal with that issue if you don't have experience, but you want to raise money. Okay, so good entrepreneurs are great salespeople. The best technology company doesn't always win. The best marketing and sales team usually wins. And so very passionate salespeople like Mark Benioff or Jeff Bezos from Amazon or Richard Branson from Virgin. These are very passionate, great salespeople. They might not have the best products, but they're amazing at sales and service and support. And so you got to learn how to become a great salesperson if you haven't already. And I will teach you in the next chapter. I'll teach you how to sell. I'll teach you how to present. Because in business, especially when you start your own company, you're always selling. You're always selling. Okay, let's talk just for a second about ethics. And I'll cover this a couple times throughout this course as well. Warren Buffett had this amazing quote that stipulated that it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. I would argue that instead of taking 5 minutes now, it takes 5 seconds using social media. So whenever I'm using email late at night, if I'm not sure if I should send that message or not, I usually save it in my draft and send it the next morning. But from an ethics perspective, just be very, very careful in business. And we're going to talk about some legal issues as well, not boring ones, but ones that will help you and protect you and your family. Okay, so investment stages right now during chapter 1 and 2, we're at the very beginning stages of starting a company, which we call the seed stage, where you have to raise money, look at the total addressable market, make sure it's big enough for you, set up the right legal structure, and think about taxes as well. And then as the seed grows into a big tree, the last stage is we'll go public. Or we'll restructure the company, or we'll partner with Goldman Sachs or KKR. Don't worry about those brands. I'll tell you what those companies are later. Okay, so again, you're always raising money, and the term is OPM, not the drug, but OPM stands for other people's money. I don't ever want you to put your family at risk. Raise money from others and protect yourself as well from a legal perspective. So you're always in sales. You're always going to be practicing presenting. And Steve Jobs was one of the worst presenters in the world early on. And he practiced a lot and became very good at it. And we're going to analyze him and other amazing presenters.